I've got a bunch of new riddles for you, oh great detective. Concentrate and crack them all like nuts. Look at this picture very attentively. One of these people attacked the artist, but can you figure out who it was? The artist started writing the letter K and then another letter, but he didn't have time to finish it. It seems to be an I, so the culprit could be Kitty. But at the same time, it also looks as if the artist simply didn't have time to finish the letter L, which is another letter that can be confused with I. So, if the injured man tried to write the lower part of the letter L but didn't have enough time to finish it, it could easily be Claude, who attacked him. What do you think? Was it Claude or Kitty? Write your answer in the comments. These people seem to be rather strange, but only one of them is a real vampire. Who is it? All of them are drinking something red, but it might be just some pomegranate juice. The girl on the left has a blood red streak next to her mouth, but it might just be smudged lipstick. The man has weird teeth, but they could be artificial. As for the woman on the right, she must be the vampire. Have you noticed that she doesn't have a reflection in the mirror? This couple is about to get married. What a happy event. But not everything is rainbows and butterflies here. One of the people in the picture is actually an alien. Have you spotted this guest from another planet? It's the bride herself. Look, she's got 3 arms. Continuing with the topic of extraterrestrial visitors, you need to find an alien among these athletes. Can you spot anything unusual about them? The guy on the left must be an alien. He's got 2 left hands. Yikes. Creepy. Now this guy seems to be lost and confused. There are 2 doors in front of him, and both ladies seem friendly. But one of the doors isn't safe to enter. Which one is it? It's the door on the left. This glamorous lady is offering the guy a ride, but do you see that strange decor in her apartment? Especially the skull? At the same time, the second woman looks quite disheveled. But despite her messy appearance, offering food might just be a kind gesture. In any case, a ride with a stranger holds more risk than a simple hamburger. Look at these bathrooms very attentively. Your task is to figure out which of them belongs to a zombie. Well, both bathrooms look kinda disgusting, but a real zombie leaves on the left. Do you see that glass standing on the sink in the left room? The zombie keeps his fingers there. Ugh. We've got 3 Miss School contestants here. They look pretty and all, but one of them is actually dangerous. Which one is it? It's the girl in the pink dress. There's blood on her crown. Another day, another monster. Look at these people attentively and try to figure out which of them is a werewolf. The man on the left is just wearing a mask. It's quite obvious. The lady in the middle might have had some kind of an accident, hence the bizarre blue spots on her body. But the man on the right is literally covered with fur, which he is trying to hide with his clothes, but his true nature can still be spotted. A crazy scientist captured Mark and locked him in his lab to use the guy for his experiments. Luckily, the guy managed to get out of the lab, taking along 3 pills. Each of them worked for 10 seconds. The green pill could provide him with regeneration abilities. The red pill could allow him to become invisible. And the blue pill provided him with the ability to fly. To get out of there, Mark had to pass through 3 rooms. One was guarded by a vampire, the second one was protected by a werewolf, and the third one hosted a maniac with a chainsaw. Which pill should Mark take to pass through each room? Mark needs to take the invisibility pill to get past the vampire, the pill enabling him to fly to get past the werewolf, and the regeneration pill to escape the chainsaw. Simon was stuck at a gas station 50 miles away from the city. His car was broken and could be repaired only by the end of the day. Luckily, there were 3 drivers who were ready to offer him a ride to the city. Look at these people and try to understand which car is safe. The driver in the red car is actually a criminal. The police have been looking for the vehicle he's driving. It must have been stolen. The man in the yellow car must be a criminal too, since he is depicted on the wanted poster on the wall. Only that granny in the blue car is safe to ride with. Maria Walker, a rich businesswoman, collected ancient pieces of art. One day, she managed to buy a priceless Chinese figurine. Maria locked it in a safe in her office and went home. But the next morning, the figurine was gone. Police have 3 suspects, all of them Miss Walker's subordinates. The detective asked each of them if they'd taken the figurine from the safe. Beverly said she hadn't been to the office since Monday. Ralph said that he didn't even know how to open safes and wasn't interested in Chinese art. And Vincent admitted that he'd been to Miss Walker's office after her departure, but he only took some documents he needed. Have you understood who the thief was? It was Ralph. Otherwise, how would he know the figurine was Chinese? Mary was a college teacher. It was the beginning of a new school year and 3 new students joined the class. When Mary saw them, she immediately realized something was off about one of them. What did she notice? The guy in the middle doesn't have a shadow. Logan worked as a security officer on a small cruise ship. One day, during a severe storm, he found Mr. Lewis lying on the deck. When the man came to his senses, he said someone had hit him on the head and had taken his wallet. Logan had 3 suspects. He visited them in their cabins. Linda told him she was feeling queasy because of seasickness. She couldn't even get up from her bed. Denise said she'd been watching a movie on her smartphone. And Philip said he'd been writing a letter to his wife. Logan immediately understood who had hit Mr. Lewis. Do you know? It was Philip. Look at his letter. The handwriting is immaculate. But it's impossible to write so accurately during a storm. Look at these elderly ladies. Both of them have gone out for a walk. At first glance, they seem totally normal. But one of them is actually planning something bad. Can you figure out which granny it is? It's the granny on the right. She's got a file hidden in her knitting basket. Look at this explorer. He seems to be in a tough situation. There are 4 tunnels in front of him. The first one seems to be freezing cold, with some perilous-looking icicles hanging over the entrance. The second tunnel looks outright creepy. A giant shark is in the third tunnel. and the fourth pass is covered with molten lava. Where should our explorer go? He should opt for the first tunnel. Have you noticed a rather well-trodden track there? So this way can't be too dangerous. Kenneth was hungry. He found a nice diner that served burgers and bought one. After a waiter brought him his order, Kenneth went to the bathroom to wash his hands. But when he came back, his burger was gone. The guy looked around the diner and understood who had taken his lunch. Can you figure it out? It's this young woman. A dog is sitting at her feet and sniffing the air. If she was just drinking coffee, which is what she's pretending to do, the dog wouldn't be so interested in her.
The university chancellor enters the auditorium where a lecture about genetic engineering occurs. A young teacher is drawing graphics and diagrams on the whiteboard, and students are redrawing them in their laptops. The chancellor knows that some of these students are not listening to the teacher. He walks around the audience and stands behind all the people. Who do you think is not focused on studying? All students are typing the formulas on their laptops. That girl over there is solving a crossword puzzle on her computer. Detective Richardson is chasing a robber dressed in a clown's outfit. The thief runs into the territory of a big carnival. There are a lot of clowns here. Help find the suspect among them. Catch that guy! His makeup is leaking since he's sweating after running. Also, he is the only one among all the clowns who took off the red nose, since he needs to take a deep breath. Angelica gets out of the elevator and goes to her room. She puts a magnetic card to the lock to open the door. Then she turns on a kettle and a TV. At this moment, the phone rings. Angelica picks it up.
Hello, it's your neighbor from the opposite apartment. I'm looking at someone trying to break into your house right now.
A voice on the other end of the line says,
He's trying to pick your lock with a lockpick.
I'm sorry, it seems you've called the wrong number, Angelica tells him and hangs up. Why did she think that? Her door has a magnetic lock. Howard got stuck on a deserted island after an emergency landing on his biplane. He had no fuel and no means of communication. He spent the last few nights building a raft from bamboo. He also sewed sails from the parachute, and now Howard is sailing away from the shore. At this moment, a storm begins. Waves and strong winds carry the small raft further from land, right into the center of the storm. And then Howard notices a ship. He's screaming for help, but a big wave turns the ship over. There's no chance of salvation. The raft sinks next, and Howard loses consciousness. He wakes up on the island again, surrounded by the ship's wreckage. Howard looks around and starts yelling with happiness. It seems he's saved. Why? There are fuel cans among the wreckage. Howard can refuel his biplane and fly away from this place. There's a secret helicopter hangar hidden among trees at the edge of the forest. A squirrel got stuck on the ceiling between the beams. Johnny, the woodcutter, comes inside and notices the poor animal. He's going to rescue it, but he doesn't know how to get there. There are no stairs or anything that can be used to climb so high. Help him save the squirrel. There's an open vent on the ceiling. Johnny can get to the squirrel through the roof, but how? The hangar is located among the trees. Johnny can climb a tree and jump on the roof. The premiere of some fantastic movie about graffiti culture was held at one local cinema. Some of the viewers liked it so much that they painted the wall of the building. The police caught 3 suspects. But who's guilty? Look at this girl with blue hair. She has paint on her fingers. Leo, Brad, and Chris walk in the park and tell each other how they spent the weekend. All the guys look rich and successful, but in fact, only one of them is wealthy. Look at them carefully and try to guess who. It's Brad. See the advertising banner of a new action movie hanging on a skyscraper in the distance? Brad's face is on it. Linda comes out of the library. She doesn't notice the curb ahead, stumbles over it, and breaks the heel of her shoe. She calls a taxi and goes to the city center. There's a street with many fashionable boutiques. Linda doesn't know which store to go to. The best shoes in town, the sign on the first building says. The best shoes in the country is written on the second boutique. The best shoes on the continent, the sign on a fashion house lights up. The best shoes on the planet is written on the next one. Linda moves on. The best shoes in the solar system. The best shoes in the galaxy. The best shoes in the universe. Then she notices a small shop at the end of the street. Linda chooses that one without hesitation. What was written there? The best shoes on this street. Roy is sitting in the classroom listening to two teachers. They're saying essential mathematical formulas to prepare students for upcoming exams. Roy is writing down their words, but he doesn't keep up with the teachers. His hand hurts more and more. The notebook is running out of pages. The teacher's speech is accelerating. They're saying a lot of new information. Ah! How can Roy remember all of this? Help him! He needs to use the voice recorder on his phone. The plane takes off from the airport. A flight attendant walks through the cabin and sees two passengers arguing. The crew member asks what happened. Jay says that Courtney took his place. Courtney claims that this is her seat. They showed their tickets to the flight attendant. She tells them that the program couldn't sell two identical seats. She takes their boarding passes and immediately understands what the mistake is. Look at the tickets and tell who's right here. Seat 14F is written on both documents. Jay's takeoff time is 2:57 a.m. Courtney's is 2:57 p.m. It was sunny when the plane took off. Also, the sun is shining outside the window, so Jay's got on the wrong flight. Alexis runs at the stadium every day, preparing for an athletics championship. And it starts today. Alexis warms up and notices a skinny guy among other runners. His legs look weak and thin. Is he gonna run? Alexis wonders. All participants get up to the starting position. 3, 2, 1, go! Alexis is running as fast as she can. She's in the lead, and that guy runs much faster and doesn't look tired. He wins. But how did he do it? Alexis realizes he's not a real athlete. He's not even a human. But how did she know that? The guy doesn't sweat, he doesn't blink, and he has two left hands. It's raining. Mike tries to walk fast so as not to freeze. His 3 goats are following him. He comes out to the river and notices a raft on the shore, but it can only withstand 1 goat and 1 human at a time. A tiger is sitting on the other side of the river. Mike can't sail with 1 goat and leave it with the tiger. What should he do to cross the river? There's no need to cross the river this way. Look, there's a bridge far ahead. There's a house right in the middle of the hottest desert. There is no water, trees, or villages around. 4 people live inside the building: the owner and his friends, an archaeologist, an oil worker, and a surveyor. The owner comes to the backyard and sees an empty jug. "Who's drunk all the water? We don't have any supplies anymore," he screams loudly. All the friends are in shock too. "Those who did that should go to the desert and get some water," he says.
I was excavating in front of the house. I didn't touch the jug.
The archaeologist replies. I extracted oil under the house. I didn't touch the water, the oil worker says. I was wandering through the desert in search of an underground river or lake, but I haven't found anything. There's no point in sending us there. You know, I think you've drunk it, the surveyor answers. What do you think? Who's guilty? Nobody. The jug was outside. The hot sand and the scorching sun dried it up. Dr. Phil works in a laboratory for the study of microorganisms. He's sitting in his office, reading a new scientific article. At this moment, someone knocks on the door. It's a young laboratory assistant. He looks scared and says he's met a real monster. It has several mouths, long tentacles, and one claw, the guy says. He locked it in the lab. Dr. Phil goes there to see it with his eyes. He turns the key in the lock. The door is opening slowly with a cracking sound. The doctor steps inside and... nothing. There's complete silence here. There's no monster. Or is there? Where do you think it is? The monster is microscopic, sitting in the test tube. This is a laboratory for the study of microorganisms, remember? One old head of a large financial company is going to retire, but who will be his heir? Who will be able to manage such a huge corporation? He's calling an emergency meeting. All employees gather in the conference room. The boss gives $100 to each of them.
That's all I had when I arrived in this city for the first time. But I used this money wisely and became rich,
he says.
Who can use this banknote best of all will get the head position in the company. You have 2 weeks.
At the appointed time, all the employees return to the conference room. Someone invested the money in startups. Someone bought shares from other companies. One guy just spent the $100 in a restaurant. Some smart people earned thousands of dollars. There were many worthy candidates, but none of them became the head of the company. Why? The reason is not related to money. The old boss passed away. There was an incident in a secret laboratory. One of the scientists released a substance that turned people into vampires. Detective Reed arrived at the scene to interview 3 witnesses. The first scientist, Michael, said,
I stopped by the lab this morning to pick up some notes. The machines were working just fine, and I didn't see anyone. I took the papers and left.
The second scientist, Lindsay, said, I closed the lab at night. One of the PCs was faulty, but I was very tired and decided to leave it till the morning. Unfortunately, I overslept. And the third scientist, Jennifer, said,
I got up early and went to the lab to check the devices. No one seems to have entered the room. I fixed one of the computers and left.
Which one of them was lying? Michael is lying. One of the computers was actually faulty, and Jennifer spent the whole morning fixing it. If Michael had walked into the lab, he would have known about it, or Jennifer would have noticed him. So he must have entered the lab after the others had already left. But why would someone release such a dangerous substance? Michael didn't want to confess, so Detective Reed decided to investigate the crime scene to find out who was behind this. Take a look at this picture. Is there anything suspicious? It looks like Michael dropped an ID card. And look, it doesn't belong to him. The name on the card is George Wilson. Let's ask him about the incident. Detective Reed went to Mr. Wilson's office to ask him about the incident.
Oh yeah, I gave my pass to Michael,
Mr. Wilson said.
But that's only because I had left something in the lab. My glasses. I didn't have time, so I asked Michael to pick them up.
Well, that's not a very clever excuse, but how can you prove the man is lying? There's an open glasses case on the table, and the glasses are inside. But Mr. Wilson, didn't you say that you left them in the lab?
Oh, did I say my glasses? Sorry, I meant my papers. I made this mistake because I asked my secretary Shirley to look for my glasses yesterday.
Find something to prove Mr. Wilson is lying. There's a calendar on Shirley's desk. Yesterday was her day off. It's marked red. Mr. Wilson is lying. Mr. Wilson was arrested, but people have already begun to turn into vampires. Can you guess who's actually a vampire? The woman on the right. She's putting on her makeup, but do you see? She isn't reflected in the mirror. Meanwhile, those who haven't turned into vampires gather everything they might need to survive. Which of these people is more likely to stay alive? All these supplies won't protect the guy on the right from vampires. As for the girl on the left, she's stocked up on what she can to defeat the vampires. She has a higher chance of survival. Let's check out the subway. There are two women here. Which of them is not pregnant? The girl on the left is not pregnant. Look, her belly is of a very strange shape. That's because she has hidden her survival supplies under her clothes. Vampires decided to throw a party. Who among those present is actually an undercover human? The guy on the left is a human. He's wearing makeup and false teeth. Nikki is also trying to survive. She packs her things and decided to move to a neighboring town. But suddenly, a vampire charged at her car. He damages the vehicle and takes away some supplies. Fortunately, he doesn't manage to bite Nikki. She escapes. Nikki has to stay home. The next day, a young man knocks on her door and asks for help. Is it okay to let him in? Nope. He has the same scar on his cheek like the vampire from the day before. Nikki continues to hide at home. One day, some girl starts knocking on her back door. Please help! A pack of vampires is chasing me! Nikki opens the door. The girl is out of breath, but she manages to say, They're almost here! Can I come in? Is it safe to let her in? No! This girl is a vampire. Anyone in this situation would immediately run inside the house, but vampires can't come in without an invitation. Nikki was checking her house and suddenly noticed that there was someone in the attic. She approached the shadows. It was a father and daughter. Please don't kick us out. Sorry, we snuck in without permission. We've been trying to hide from the vampires. The father said, Is it safe to let them stay? Yes, firstly, they're sitting in the sun, but their skin seems to be okay. Secondly, they managed to enter the house without an invitation. That means they're humans. Nikki let them stay. Let's take a little break. Time for some quick riddles. Think fast. A vampire lived in a one-story black cottage. He had a black cat, a black fish, a black computer, a black armchair, a black desk, and a black phone. Everything was black. What color was the staircase? There was no staircase in that house because it was a one-story cottage. 3 vampires are walking fast. The first vampire says, 2 other vampires are walking behind me. The second one says,
1 vampire is walking behind me, and 1 is walking in front of me.
And the third one says, 2 vampires are walking in front of me, and 2 are walking behind me. How is that possible? These vampires are walking in circles. Humans, vampires, and werewolves gathered in one mansion. There are as many werewolves as there are vampires. There are as many vampires as there are humans. How many creatures are there if 3 of them are werewolves? There are 9 creatures in the mansion, 3 werewolves, 3 vampires, and 3 humans. Now let's go back to Nikki and her adventures. Nikki, Peter, and his daughter Becky decided to go to another town together. It takes 2 days to get there. They drove all day until night fell. Now they have 3 options. First, they can continue driving until the morning, despite the fact that they may meet a lot of vampires along the way. Second, they can spend the night in the nearest cave with bats. And third, they can sleep in the car. Which option would be the safest for them? Sleeping in the car is a bad idea. Vampires can sneak up on them in the middle of the night. A night in a cave is also a bad option. Vampires can hide among these bats. The safest option is to keep driving. Although they'll probably meet vampires, they have a chance to survive if they drive faster. They drove really fast and managed to reach the city by the morning. But when they got out of the car, they discovered they were surrounded by vampires. To escape, they need to choose one of 3 roads. On the first road, there's a pack of vampires. They're coming straight at the guys. There are wild hogs on the second road. The third road leads through a dark alley with hundreds of bats. Which of these 3 ways is the safest? The second way is the best option because the sun illuminates it, so vampires can't follow Nikki and her new friends. Plus, these dogs don't look too unfriendly. The guys reach 3 stores. Now they need to decide which of the stores is safe to enter. Nikki, Peter, and Becky look through the windows to see what's inside. The first store is empty, but it seems to be full of traps. The second store is full of survivors, but they look dangerous. And the third store seems empty as well, but it's completely dark there, and you can't see anything except for dozens of bats. Where should Nikki lead her friends? The first store is the safest. If Nikki, Peter, and Becky notice these traps, then the chances are high they'll be able to avoid them. It's worth a try. There's a man in the city who's trying to survive by hiding among vampires. Nikki spent a week photographing vampires to figure out who he was. Will you be able to see who is actually human in these photos? You can see this man has all 4 photos. In one of the photos, he's eating garlic bread, and in this one, his leg is exposed to the sun. He's only pretending to be a vampire. Nikki and the others decided to invite this man to join their group. The man was delighted and said that his name was Douglas. He was a journalist looking for safe places for people. He suggested creating a password that only humans could figure out. They came up with this one: HAWUH. Can you guess why? If you look at the reflection of this word in the mirror, you will see Huwan, or Huwan. Flip the letter W and you get the word human. But only those who get reflected in the mirror will be able to solve this puzzle. Nikki and her friends settle down in this town. Can you guess which of these houses belongs to Nikki, in which Peter and Becky live, and in which Douglas has chosen? House number 1 belongs to Peter and Becky. There are 2 bicycles next to it. House number 2 belongs to the journalist. Do you see his equipment? And the remaining house, house number 3, belongs to Nikki.